Hi, I'm Stu Davies, Ocean Caring Digital Strategist. This podcast dives into the real stories behind ocean caring brands and organisations. Welcome to A Drop in the Ocean. Each episode explores the wins, challenges and lived experiences of those working to protect our seas, from grassroots campaigners to global initiatives. But it's more than just those stories. We're also going to connect these change makers with marketing, communications, AI, storytelling and strategy experts to share their insights and help us all amplify our missions. One drop in the ocean becomes many. Let's make some waves together. For the first podcast of this series, I have a wonderful guest, Lloyd Gofton. And Lloyd wears more hats than I do. Lloyd, tell us about yourself, exactly what it is you do and what you do for the ocean.
Well, thanks, Drew. Thanks for having me, first of all. And I guess you're right. I do wear many hats, literally and figuratively. So in terms of me, in terms of my work, I am a communications consultant. So I do that mostly for ocean organisations, but anyone in conservation, really. But in terms of my passion, I think the easiest way to describe me is as an ocean obsessive. So I do lots of volunteering roles, I'm sure we'll come on to, but, just generally a little bit obsessed by that giant blue thing, just not too far from where we're sitting right now and where I've just been literally before I came here, because it's magnetic to me. It attracts me.
And, when I was researching the guests for the podcast, I wanted somebody who had a connection to the ocean and was making change in spaces, but also help us bridge that gap to communications. And you came up, and just tell us about the number of different things that you're involved with.
So I guess starting with the easy things, I guess from a paid point of view. So as I said, I'm a communications consultant. I work for organisations that want to communicate certain ocean elements. So that whether that's ocean science or whether that's building out in terms of removing extraction from the ocean, or in terms of more sustainable tourism with the ocean, whatever that is, I work with organisations like that. Personally, I volunteer for organisations like Sussex Dolphin Project, Blue Planet Society, and that takes up, I guess, all the rest of my time that my family doesn't take up and my job takes up. So I guess from my point of view, it's about being as close to the ocean as I can be all the time, whether that's on it or around it or in it, and my roles allow me to do that. And also being passionate about protecting the ocean. I guess that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. And what's your? I just like to always ask us when they first come in. What's your personal connection to the ocean? Yeah, I guess for me it started really young because my dad was in the Royal Navy, so I grew up hearing stories about the amazing thing he saw over many, many years travelling the world. Sadly, I won't see those same things purely because of the removal of those species that he saw from the ocean, and obviously the reduction in numbers. So that's really sad to me now. But then it was this window of wonder I constantly heard about. And whenever we went anywhere near the sea, which is quite a lot being a Navy family, I felt at ease. I felt at peace. And I still can't actually put my finger on what it is that makes me feel that way, whether you can call it spiritual, you can call it, I call it being at home.
Right.
Whatever it is, it just makes me feel immediately at ease. When I'm happy, I go to the ocean. When I'm sad, I go to the ocean. When I'm excited, I go to the ocean. It carries on. I just go to the ocean. I think it makes me feel better.
It is, yeah. And what's your favourite, most fondest memory of the ocean?
It's probably more recently, to be honest. I'm in a lucky position that I get to see some amazing things through the work I do, a lot of the Sussex Dolphin Project. I think I had an amazing experience in January of this year, unexpected in Sussex, where we spent 2.5 hours with a humpback whale. Wow. just off the coast of Seaford. So
just off Seaford?
Just off literally, if you're a good swimmer, you could swim it. But if, no more than a mile or so off Seaford Beach, spending this time with a humpback whale that we'd been tracking for a long time through citizen science, and we knew roughly where it was going to come, where it would be at what time, roughly. And we kind of went for it and just thought, we'll stick ourselves in the right place and see what happens. And it happened. We were there. And to see, I've seen whales, but to see a humpback whale so close to a stretch of water I've been up and down many, many, many times, it just seemed unearthly, because it was not what I'm used to, but it was amazing as well. So that's probably, I'm probably being, it's recency bias, but that's one of my favourite experiences, just because it was right here. You know, it's literally here.
And this segues nicely into what you do. I think many people maybe don't have sight of or appreciate the diverse nature and animals and sea life and aquatic life that's just on our doorstep.
Absolutely.
And that's something that you've looked to massively address through the Sussex Dolphin Project and other organisations. So some people's connection with the sea, when they come to Brighton, all they see is the blue bit.
Yeah.
They don't appreciate that. Actually, there's a lot of life. There's a lot of life in there.
So much life. Yeah, so much. And that's a big thing of what we're trying to do, really. Obviously, the Dolphin Project. So what we do, we research cetaceans, so dolphins, whales and porpoises in the Eastern English Channel. That's our main role. But ultimately, from my point of view as a comms person, I'm really using dolphins. Sorry, dolphins, they don't care. I'm using dolphins to engage people with the ocean, the bigger picture, because it is amazing. And people see, the English Channel, and they say, oh, it's just a shipping lane, and it's full of seagulls and dogfish, and all that's true. But it's so much more than that. It is vibrant. It's a stretch of the global ocean. This is one thing I always talk about, the global ocean, where it's one ocean. We talk about Pacific and Atlantic and Indian and all that stuff, and that's lovely. But ultimately, it's one connected ocean. And it is all amazing. And there is so much life here. Literally I could show you so much footage shot just between the piers in Brighton that would blow most people's minds. So I promise you there's a lot of life in Brighton, but also, in the wider channel and out to the Atlantic and beyond.
So if someone's listening to this and they, this has piqued their interest, how can they engage? How can they engage with your organisation to experience some of this?
Yes, so we try really hard to share our best footage. And people are under the assumption we share all the footage we get. We don't, because we get a lot of footage. Some of it's really bad, but some of it's amazing. And with my comms hat on, we try and keep the quality high with the footage that we share through our social profiles to engage people. So if we get great footage, we will share it on all our social profiles. We have, lots of video that we put out there. We do events. We do boat trips that you can come on, 4 different boat trips that you can come on to experience.
You can go to the wind farm, right?
You can go to Rampion Wind Farm. Wow. You can go to Beachy Head. We can take you, a sunset cruise from Brighton. We can take you out on a yacht for 3 hours to experience.
And it's wildlife spotting.
Oh, it's not dolphin spotting, sadly, because the dolphins we see are constantly on the move up and down the channel. So I always say I'm great at telling you where the dolphins were. I'm not so good at telling you where they are. But yes, you will definitely see wildlife because the ocean is full of it. And there's stuff out there that is amazing. And we obviously go to places like the Wind Farm and Beachy Head because you'll always see something. So, and that's it. But ultimately, for me, those boat trips are about getting people on the ocean. Yes. Because I can talk about it all day and I can show you videos. And I'm pretty sure I can engage most people. But being on the ocean, that's a different thing. And you know this. But I fundamentally believe we as a species, humans, have lost our connection with the ocean. I think ocean literacy is really low from a standard point, but it is growing. Yes. And there's organisations like Sussex Dolphin Project, like the others that I've mentioned, many that are trying to improve that by showing people the wonder of the ocean.
Yeah. I'm a surfer, and there's been a few occasions when I've been surfing, and there's a pod of dolphins have popped up in various kind of places, and I feel like that's one of the most kind of spiritual, most humbling experiences for a surfer when you're actually you're in the environment with them, and you're in this kind of this, all of that energy that's been transferred into waves, and then there's another mammal there who were also surfing, who were playing in the waves, and there's that. It's quite a profound experience.
There is an ethereal connection, and I don't know what it is. I genuinely don't know what it is, but it happens. Whenever we see dolphins, whether we're with researchers, so we're lucky enough to have many marine biologists on our team, and they do a brilliant job. We have a database of sightings going back 5 years. They work hard on that. But when they see dolphins on a vessel that they've seen many times before, they lose their mind. And whether that's skippers who are helping us get out there, who've been at sea for 40 years, they go to jelly. And it's brilliant. A reaction that we have to these creatures is something we haven't been able to put our fingers on, but there's a definite connection. And it's amazing to see.
Wow. Yeah. So that's the Sussex Dolphin Project, and they can find you social media.
So if you search Sussex Dolphin Project, we'll pop up on Instagram, Facebook, on X, on everywhere you want to see us.
And if anyone's coming into our city, then join one of the tours.
Please do. We go from Brighton Marina and from New Haven as well. So we've got lots of different stuff.
So I'd be interested to know what's driving you personally, Lloyd. Clearly you've got your fingers in many kind of ocean pies, and it's interesting to know what that drive is, because you came from quite a different background.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I wish I'd gone into this career from the start. I absolutely didn't. So I went to university. I did a degree in business and marketing. And I came out of university, and being bluntly honest, I just needed a job and I took a job at a PR agency. Okay. So that was 1998. I am that old. And PR agencies in 1998 were very different. And, it was about writing press releases, sticking them in envelopes, posting them, and hoping a journalist would open them and read them and then write about it. That, things have moved on. But I spent, I guess, the 20 years from 1998 up to 2018 still doing that. Fundamentally, I wasn't sticking press releases in envelopes, but fundamentally the PR, the job, the change with social media and content marketing and all that aspects. But basically I was telling stories for organizations, like car manufacturers, pizza people, mobile phone manufacturers, that I just, honestly, I can say now, I had zero interest in. And it was a challenge for me, because I could do the job, but it just wasn't me. I'm not that sort of person. Who can talk about things I don't care about. Yeah. And it's been a real challenge. But I'm out of it. So, conversely, around 2018, I decided to, I ran an agency at that point. I've been doing it for over 10 years. I just had enough. I think, I think that's the nicest way to say it. And anyone who works in comms agencies of any description will know exactly what I mean. And I needed to find something that I cared about. And I went through a year's worth of career coaching with an amazing coach. And she helped me to find myself in terms of both me as a human, but also my career. So again, that's not a very short story, but fast forward from there, that was always about the ocean, and that was always about wildlife for me. I just didn't think I could do those roles because I wasn't a scientist.
Right. Okay.
And I think that's a common misconception. If I want to get involved in conservation, but I'm not a scientist, I can't do it. That's so very wrong.
Yeah.
And I know that now, but the message I always put across is there's a role for anyone who wants to work in conservation or with the ocean or whatever you have your passion for. You just have to find it. And I went into it saying I wasn't going to do anything to do with comms. Everyone I came across told me there's a massive need for great communicators in conservation. You need to rethink. I said they were wrong. They were right. So, and there's a just out of interest, there's a massive need for everything in conservation. So don't let it, put you off if you're not a scientist. We need the science. Don't get me wrong. We definitely need the scientists, but there are other roles.
Because when we chatted about the podcast, I think you one of the things you said to me is our sector needs to up its game. In terms of communication.
100%. Yeah, we do. I think generally and I love the conservation sector. It feels like home to me now. I've been in it for a long time, but it's failing in many basic principles of running a sector, an industry, if you like, for want of a better term, from a marketing, communications, HR, legal, financial. It needs to do better. And so there is a role for all those people.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. I think the takeaway is, if you're passionate about one area and you feel that it potentially might not need your skill set. It does.
It really does.
It really does.
100% does. And I would say the opposite is true. People think they need to be a scientist to go into conservation. Conservation's probably got enough scientists. So think about other things.
Yeah. See other things. Yeah. Which sectors are nicely, because this podcast is about helping people in our sector do their jobs better.
Yeah.
Especially through communications and how they get the message out. And I was particularly drawn to some of the work that you've done. I think you've done a very good job at getting your message out there. But I'd be interested to know what challenges you faced along the way, like since you came into conservation, certainly around communications and certainly around getting the message out of those things that you're doing.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we started talking about, which was just a lack of understanding of how our natural world works.
Okay.
And that's not an attack. That's just a general point that I've noticed that. So, for example, just take the dolphins, for example, because it's an easy example that we can all understand. The average person doesn't know that there are dolphins here in the Eastern English Channel, and that's fun. That's a challenge for me.
Or humpback whales.
Or humpback whales, yeah. And they are migrating through, by the way. They're not here all year. But anyway, that's a fundamental comms challenge right there.
Right.
So how do we deal with that? So we start showing them the dolphins, for starters, although we're then accused of putting these dolphins over footage of the pier, but I don't know why we'd do that, but whatever. We're accused of that still, less so. So we start showing people about that. We start telling them through our research which dolphins are coming. It's not just bottlenose dolphins, it's common dolphins, it's whitebeak dolphins, it's harbour porpoises. We see them all year round. Blah. All these facts we start throwing at them, we start building up. So I think from a comms point of view, it's basic awareness, education, action. And we are still building awareness. We're still building education in terms of what these cetaceans, why they're here, what they need, and what we need to give them to keep them here, in effect. But we're building that. And I think it's really helped me to understand what I do from my job point of view, because I've kind of had to start at zero, because there was no research on cetaceans in the Eastern English Channel before we started. There was about 6 months had been carried out a long time ago. But this is the first time. So we're breaking new ground and we're constantly learning. Like you said, the humpbacks, we didn't expect that to happen. Things like bluefin tuna, I know they're not cetaceans before anyone says that. Things like bluefin tuna are coming back. The sharks we see, all these amazing, amazing sightings we see is just part of the bigger picture, which is the ocean is vibrant and amazing and here, and we need to protect it.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. So we're going to go into more of a digital and comms deep dive in the next part of the talk, but just one kind of thing, just one moment or story that's stayed with you from your work. A lot about what we do is storytelling.
Yeah, no, it really is. And I think that's exactly the way I position myself. I say, people ask me what I do, and I say I'm a storyteller, and they say, well, that's a bit wanky. But sorry, that's a bad word. But it's a story from storytelling. I guess from my point of view, it's probably when I started with the Dolphin Project. So it was 2019, 2020. And I started volunteering as a comms volunteer, unsurprisingly. And we shared all these amazing, footage of dolphins. I was like, oh my God, there's much more than I thought there would be, blah, blah, blah. So through the summer and into the winter, then it changed. So we weren't now getting sightings of amazing dolphins doing aerial aerobatics and flying through the air. We were seeing dead dolphins and what was going on. And that's obviously quite shocking. And then, I needed to understand what was going on. Again, long story short, we don't have time to go into the ultimate issues around it. But what was happening was these dolphins were being killed in nets, in super trawler nets, and their bodies were washing up. And there wasn't really much understanding of what was going on. So we then had to build a very different narrative around what was going on with super trawler campaign that we've now been running for 4 years, and change that. So I think, although that was not a great time to be doing what we're doing, because seeing this close up, from a comms point of view, it was really a challenge, from going from wonder and amazement to, changing the narrative to there's an issue.
Yeah.
You love these dolphins, you're aware of them now, but they're also being killed. And completely unnecessarily. So how can we change that? So I think for me, I always go back to the super trawler campaign from something that A, you're proud of, but B, really taught me a lot about how we need to change the kind of influence of comms campaigns as well, and how they can change very rapidly without, you knowing anything. But it was a challenge for me personally, but it's something that we're still working on, and there is progress, but it's slow. And as with anything with the ocean and legislation, it's slow progress.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing, and we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come right back and deep dive into some digital comms.
Cool. Thanks.
You're listening to A Drop in the Ocean, the podcast that brings together ocean changemakers and digital communications experts, helping us all amplify our impact. If you've got a story to tell, or you're a digital communications expert who loves the ocean, then I would love to hear from you all. Get in touch with me on stu-davies.com. Let's all amplify our impact. So, welcome back to A Drop in the Ocean with my guest Lloyd Gofton, who wears many hats, but is the director of the Sussex Dolphin Project and a communications expert. So, Lloyd, this next section we're going to deep dive into digital and communications. It is the area where we can have the most impact, we can reach the most people, but it is an area that's extremely hard to navigate, especially in today's world. So how do you approach digital marketing or communications, and what's worked?
I mean, again, as I mentioned earlier, I guess I'm from the old school. So I try and take the best of the old and the new worlds. And I think fundamentally communications for me is a two-way street. And I think the bit that people miss on that is listening. Mm-hmm. So I see so many campaigns broadcasting. And what I mean by broadcasting is just, we're the best. We do this. We support us. Send us money. We're great. Meh, 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 meh. And they wonder why people switch off. And I'm like, wow, aren't you? It's like the guy in the bar you meet for the first time and he will not shut up about how amazing he is. And you just walk away and go, oh God. That's what some brands are like, or organizations. I'm not. But there is a better way. And if anything, I've learned that from my previous, so I'm working in corporate comms, I've learned that. So corporate comms are much better at that than conservation organizations.
Right, yeah.
They listen to their audience because they know their audience. So whether they want to buy a pizza or a mobile phone or a car, they need to listen to what they want and then give them that, or at least the understanding they might get it. And then they might buy some stuff. That's a fundamental understanding in most communications. We're not that good in conservation.
No.
So I think, from me, taking those learnings to the campaigns I've worked on, it's about, okay, so what do people understand about the campaign? So again, using the dolphins as an example, what do people understand? Not very much. And that's not an attack. That's just, we need to start from zero here. Let's start, right, there's dolphins here. They're here all year round. You may not see them all the time, blah, blah, blah. Moving the needle that way, not just going, send us money, dolphins need help. It's like, that doesn't work.
No.
It's common sense.
Yes. So
I think for me, it sounds really simple. Communications, it's about understanding your audience. So who are those people we need to reach? Listening to what they actually understand about the issue, helping them to build their awareness and their education, and that will ultimately lead to taking action.
And so say someone's listening to this and it resonates, going, oh my gosh, that's what we're doing. We're just broadcasting. Yeah. We're just saying, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. Mm. How can they flip the mindset or flip some tactics or strategies to be able to listen? What sort of practical things could they do?
Well, I think, so again, really sounds really simple, but going back to that bar analogy, ask some questions. You know what I mean? How are you? What do you do? Oh, that's amazing. Simple, fundamental social skills. And how do you do that through digital or through comms? Well, I mean, you find out who your audience is and, with the blessing of social media, and that's slightly sarcastic, with social media, we know a lot about our audience and we can find out who they are, where they live, what they do, what they buy, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So then we know a little bit about them. So then ask intelligent questions to them through that. I'm not talking about surveys. You can do that if you want, but just questions as part of content. This is the bottlenose dolphin. Did you know? Blah, blah, blah. What do you want to find out about bottlenose dolphins? Get a load of answers. Answer those questions. It's really simple stuff.
There we go.
Here we go. We're on the move. Because we're having a conversation. And I think ultimately comms should be about a conversation, and conversations are two-way. So stop shouting, start listening, I think is my biggest piece of advice.
That's wonderful advice, because I think modern communicators can get so lost on the channels, and they can get so lost in the tech and worrying about how to use AI. And I think some of those fundamental communications, two-way skills are so important to embed. I mean, I always feel that the channel is less important. Obviously, you need to match where your audience is going to be, and you select your channel based on where your audience is going to be. So, if you're trying to engage with a much younger generation, then you need to be looking at those social media channels such as TikTok and places where they're going to be at. Less so for the baby boomers.
Absolutely.
Okay? But it's always kind of comes down to those fundamental skills. Who your audience? What do you need to say to them? What emotional reaction do you want to elicit from them as well?
Completely.
What is that object?
And not forgetting, again, this is a really it's obvious point, but when I'm trying to reach out to the fishing community, as in the small scale sustainable fishing community we have in Sussex, they're not on social media.
No.
Just go and talk to them. I struggled with this for a long time. How do I reach them? Just going down to the port,
right? Yeah,
having a chat.
There we go.
That works.
But that's a channel. But that's the thing is, you're doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
That's a channel. The channel is physical conversation, and you have to. It's a good analogy, actually.
Yeah.
So, rather than thinking about social media and putting things up, you have to go when the fishermen are going to be there, and when they might be engaged.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't just go up to the fisherman and go, "Hey, you, buy my stuff."
Yeah, no, exactly.
You're going to get a net. You're going to get a net and a harpoon at you. So.
Probably no. I mean, and that's. Again, even within that, so obviously I have to talk to them in a very different way that I talk to Gen Z.
You're going to get to know them as well.
Yeah,
you're going to, hey, what's your name?
100%. So this is not like, oh my God, Lloyd's come up with this amazing strategy. It's like common sense, people. And again, I get it. As you say, working in corporate comms or whatever comms you work in, there's challenges. There's people above want you to do this campaign and that campaign, and you have to deliver, make sure you're hitting all your channels and blah, blah. I get all that. But if you want it to work... fundamentals need to be ticked, and things like failing fast. That's another one of my favorite terms. Failing fast, what does that mean? Try something, but people, especially communicators, are stuck on plans. I've got this plan, it's a 6-month plan. If I do not execute every single thing in the plan, the world will fall apart and I will be fired. Whereas the reality is, if you keep going on something that doesn't work, then it will definitely fail. So if something's clearly not working, stop doing it. But stop doing it quickly. Learn, move on.
Yeah.
I think. Okay.
Yeah. A key part of marketing is to be able to have some way to measure what's working and what's not. Even if it's how many reactions or likes do we get to a post, or but ultimately you need to be joining that up to the number of leads or the number of donations, or of course whatever it is.
Yeah, but again, and things like content. So content constantly surprises me. I think so. We share an amazing piece of footage of a dolphin interaction. It's brilliant. It's in HD. Amazing. It gets decent engagement. I share some really horrible, wobbly footage shot from someone's bedroom of dolphins. It goes bonkers.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because people can relate to, oh my God, that person saw dolphins from their bedroom.
Yeah.
That's the relation there. It doesn't matter about the footage. There's a story. There's a narrative that engages people. So that's a learning point for me. It's not always the top quality footage that gets the most engagement.
And it's by looking at the data of what's working, helps you craft your narrative to then optimize your marketing
completely. Or it could just be something that someone says within the video when they're screaming or going, and that sends it viral. Viral, I hate that term, but sends it with much more engagement. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, I didn't think of that.
So what have you found difficult or frustrating in your marketing journey?
I think it's I guess by nature I'm a problem solver and I like things to be done quick, and generally that's not the theme in comms, in marketing. I think there is a slow process. Definitely needs to be a strategic process, but if you intrinsically feel that something is moving the needle, to use your term, I think you should stick with it. Ultimately, it's about knowing and having a sense of what works with your audience. It's about understanding your audience. It's about trying to pull out the key points that you need from the audience. It's not necessarily just going with the flow and just ticking the boxes on a plan. It's doing, I guess, the job, feeling the job. It sounds really hard to fully communicate from a communicator, but feeling the job is really important as well. If that makes sense. It's like getting a feel. Okay, I know this audience now. I've met them. I've engaged with them on social. I know that they're probably going to feel that they like this. It's like, how can I engage, use my learnings to engage on a key objective on that point, and then how do I get those results? How do I communicate those results to the people that are making the decision of whether I've failed or not? All those kind of things. That's feeling those points, I think is really key.
I think that's wonderful advice. I'm often, when I've helped people in the sector, one of the common things I've seen is often a bit of overwhelm in terms of the amount of things that they're trying to market or get across, the number of projects, the different initiatives, the different campaigns. And my advice is always try and slow down to speed up. You might need to do some less things or do some less messaging, and try to really, really get into the the exact things that you said there. Get into the sense of what story you're trying to tell and who for.
100%. I mean, it's always quality over quantity for me. I'd rather do something really well than 10 things quite badly.
So you mentioned a campaign shift, which was a huge shift for your marketing, and a campaign that helped you move moved the needle for your organisation, or you had to completely dial change.
Yeah, absolutely.
From where it goes. Let's talk about that. So that was the super trawler campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called Dolphins Aren't Discard. We around obviously. Starting. The challenge with the Dolphins Aren't Discard campaign is no one really knew what was going on. So no one was seeing dead dolphins washing up on the beach. And just to be clear, the stats say around 8 to 10% of dolphins that die at sea will make it to the beach.
Right.
So we're seeing a tiny percentage. But when that starts happening, usually in the autumn and winter, there was shock from me because it was the first time I'd seen it, but some of the team had seen it before and they knew what it was. So I was trying to go, why are these dolphins dying? It's clear it wasn't natural. There was beaks hacked off, dorsal fins hacked off, tails hacked off, or there was clear net marks. There was, obvious signs. And I was told a story about what goes on around the world in terms of super trawlers. So being pelagic trawlers, these aren't bottom trawlers, these are pelagic mid-water trawlers that use nets a kilometre long and 200 metres wide to basically take everything in their path. And they're after certain pelagic fish. And they sell them what they call low quality or low cost fish. And they say they have to take huge amounts to make up for the low cost, which to me blows my mind. These are the centre of the food web in the ocean, these fish. These are important, not just to dolphins, to whales, to everything. Anyway, that's a different matter. From a marketing point of view, it was like, okay, why is no one talking about this? And the answer was, well, no one knows about it. It's out of sight, out of mind. These trawlers operate a minimum of 12 miles, so they don't come into national waters. They operate in international waters where there's basically no law and they do what they want. But it still needs to be resolved. It's like, well, I saw this as, well, clearly it's a comms challenge. And if no one knows about it and it's happening and the evidence is there, why is no one doing about it? So there had been a couple of petitions around from various organisations in the past, but there'd been no consistent awareness campaign to build knowledge of what's happening. And we felt we're not a campaigning organisation in terms of Sussex Dolphin Project. That wasn't our remit is research and building the awareness and wonder of the cetaceans in the Eastern English Channel. So I was passionate about this issue. We had some interesting conversations internally about whether we should do this because it wasn't really our role. Yeah. Ultimately, we felt that these were the dolphins that we were researching. We can't ignore it. And I was very happy about that. And we went forward and launched a campaign. Yeah. We work with other organisations. We've got 40 partners now that we work with as part of the organisation. We've got petition signatures up to 137,000 to add certain elements into the measurement of what super trawlers are doing. So we're building, we've now got CCTV added to the one British flag super trawler, which is not British, by the way. But
so one part with it was building the case.
Yeah.
You have to have the facts.
Absolutely.
You have to have the facts to be able to back up.
Just understanding this issue. There's very few people, I promise you, I tried to search, I found maybe one or two people who know anything about super trawlers, and I basically suck the knowledge from them. And we've learned way too much about super trawlers than we want to know. Yeah. But it's helped us with the campaign. So we then try and disseminate that to the people. So the common misconception is they're bottom trawler. That's a different issue. That's a very valid issue. It's not this issue. Yeah. So we need to separate those issues. Yeah. They operate outside of UK waters. Most people say, well, we can't do anything about it then. Well, that's a lack of understanding about how the ocean works. Just because a dolphin is within 12 miles, it's safe, and outside 12 miles, it's not safe. That doesn't make any difference to a dolphin. So it's all those kind of issues that we've had to build an understanding of. And now we get reports of super trawlers all the time. You can't generally see them from land. They're too far out. But it just shows how the needles move with people's understanding. Oh, I can see a super trawler. No, it's a dredger. But whatever. It's, they're not great either. But it's, there's lots of challenges with that. But we're building that understanding, and we've taken the lead, and we're now working with lots of other organisations, as I said.
So was that quite a key part of building a successful campaign, as Together We're Stronger, getting other organisations to come on board and move in the same direction and share the reach of your followers, of your potential.
I think the advantage we've
exposure.
Got at the Dolphin Project is it's global, local. That's what I would always say. So every issue you see in the ocean is right here in Sussex, because the ocean is here. Yeah. So we've managed to engage people locally because they're passionate about their marine life. Brilliant. And educate them on these issues. When other organisations see that happening, suddenly Super Trawlers become a marketable campaign. There are many, many, many issues in the ocean that large organisations don't deal with because they're not marketable. They're not fundable. That's a fundamental truth. I'm not speaking out of school here. That's the truth. But if we make it marketable, fundable, then suddenly there's a change. And I'm not saying that's why the organisations come on board. They want to help, but there's budgets involved.
And how did you execute a campaign? So you obviously you've got the story, you've got the idea, you're starting to get the facts, you've got some of the partner organisations. How did you then decide, where are we going to put this out, and how are we going to drive that engagement?
Fundamentally, we changed out of sight, out of mind to insight, in mind. I guess that was the number one strategy. So stuff you can't see, people can't see this going on. We took it to them. So we can track through marine traffic apps where these super trawlers are. When they're in Sussex, the wider area of Sussex, we let people know. We say they're here now, they're fishing. We can see when they're fishing by the speed.
And how do you let people know? Through social
media? Yeah, absolutely. We also reported to the press.
Yeah.
So we had a big PR outreach. So that first year we had blanket coverage across all the nationals, across all the TV programs. We showed them pictures that we could share. There were some very gruesome pictures we couldn't share of dead dolphins, showing things there's a very famous picture we use a lot of a common dolphin with a rope tied around its tail where it had been winched out of a net and hacked off from a crane. From a vessel, dropped over. That actually popped up outside our office. Not quite outside our office. Our office is in a little beach, but the closest bit of beach to our office. Yeah. And we used that as it was almost like a red rag to a bull. It was like, okay, this is really personal. It's literally on our doorstep now. We're doing something about it. And we use those images. We report on when they're there. When super trawlers are in the channel, we generally get some bodies dropped, if that's a nice way of putting it, so we can correlate that. So we report on all this constantly. Yeah. We tell people about them. We update through social media. We update through press. We build the awareness. And over the years, that's come to people know generally we're going to start talking about super trawlers in December, January time, because that's when they're generally here.
Right, okay.
It's not a constant campaign, but seasonal.
Wonderful. And How do you, just one sort of final question before we wrap up, how do you balance doing the work that you need to with shouting about it? How do you kind of find that balance?
I guess I love being, I guess personally, I love being out on the ocean. So I'm not a researcher, I'm not a scientist, but I love doing that part. Yeah. So we're very clear. We have a process, I guess. So we get a great sighting, for example. So let's take the whale, for example, that we filmed. We went out there with intention to find this whale and film it. We weren't going to track it down, but we put ourselves in a spot where we thought it might be. We had our cameras ready to go. Yeah. We had our volunteer videographers ready, and we got lucky, fundamentally. But there was always a plan to then take that and put that out on social, take that to the media. So I guess they're intrinsically linked now in that project. We see comms as part of what we do. We cannot meet our objectives to understand cetaceans in the East English Channel without building a comms campaign around it. So they're one and the same, I guess, is the easiest way of saying it.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, Lloyd, you've been a wonderful guest.
Thanks.
First guest on A Drop in the Ocean. And do you have a call to action for anyone who's listening?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've enjoyed hearing about Sussex Dolphin Project and what we do spend a lot of our time on boats. Sadly, we don't have our own. That means most of the money we raise goes into hiring boats. And what we're trying to do is we've got a fundraiser called Buy Us a Boat. You find it Sussex Dolphin Project, Buy Us a Boat. And if you want to chuck a couple of quid in there, we'd be very grateful.
Brilliant. Or if there is a very rich billionaire listening, maybe one who isn't dabbling in American politics, maybe you could buy the Sussex Dolphin Project a boat.
That would be amazing too.
Right, Lloyd, have a great day and thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Stu. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to A Drop in the Ocean, the podcast that brings together ocean change makers and digital communications experts, helping us all amplify our impact. New episodes will be available from your streaming platform of choice. Please do like, comment and share and help us spread the message. See you next time.